Listen, it's hot, okay? It is a heat wave right now in California, and it's warm, so I might be a little bit moist. You might hear a little bit of fan noise, but this is what we gotta do because we gotta get out the content. So if you appreciate that, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe as well. I don't usually ask for that in the beginning of these videos, but we're going with it. But we're not here to talk about the heat. We're here to talk about the hot heat that is the Vissles V84, which is what was in this box until I took it out for testing for the sake of this video, which is why you're here. Behold, it is here in my hand, the Vissles V84. If Vissles sounds familiar to you, it's because it rhymes with bristles. Also, I've covered one of their keyboards in the past. It was like a weird kind of clicky, very thin membrane, mechanical-ish keyboard. It's this one on the screen right here. It was a very thin keyboard. It's very cool. Kept using it a little bit after making that video, which I don't always do, but it was pretty nice. It came in handy when I needed it because of the compact thin size. Well, this one is very different because it's not a compact thin one. It's a full-on mechanical keyboard. The Vissles V84 retails for $119, but I think as of recording, it's on sale for $109. It's a 75% mechanical hot swap keyboard, fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches. You can get it with OEM profile white PBT keycaps, which is what I have, and there's also black ABS keycaps available as well. You've got 4 switch options. There's Atemu reds, browns, and blues, but in this case, I have Vissles' own VS2 switches, which is the main switch that they've designed for this keyboard. It's a very quiet linear switch, which makes this kind of an ideal keyboard for office work or just gaming at night when you're not trying to wake your neighbors or your mom. You're gonna get a quick instruction card, a kind of faux leather wrist rest, which is a nice inclusion. You don't really see that too often with keyboards these days. Included wrist rests, nice touch, Vissles. There's also some minimal Vissles branding on the wrist rest. It's actually a pretty nice wrist rest. It's not going to fit the full width of the board. It's more of a 60% size, so it's a little bit smaller, but I'd say it's pretty nice. There's a keycap puller, a switch puller, a manual, keycaps to swap out if you want based on Windows and Mac. Oh, and there's also a microfiber cleaning cloth, and it even has magnetic feet to raise the keyboard a little bit. And there's also non-slip mats to put on the bottom of the wrist rest, just in case it slips around on your desk. You can stick those on for some added friction to prevent the slippage. So the sound, the switches. I don't think that it sounds terrible. If you're looking for a quiet switch, they definitely do sound quiet. The switches have 2mm of pre-travel, 4mm total travel, and 56 grams of actuation force, making them a bit heavier than your typical red linear switch and closer to something like a Gateron Yellow. I think personally what gets me with this board is the feeling, which I cannot convey over video. I feel like it just feels a little bit scratchy, and for some reason I feel like that also has to do with the keycaps. They're very heavily textured keycaps, almost to a fault, where they, to me, feel a little bit chalky almost. The RGB lights up right through them, and not in the good way you would expect with like a shine-through keycap, and it just doesn't look great. I've never been a fan of that. Luckily these days it is easier to find aftermarket keycaps that will fit the board, so if that's something you want to do to block out the light at least, that's something that is definitely an easier option these days than it was like a year ago, but that's an extra expense on top of the keyboard because again, it's not available in bare bones. Is it? I might be wrong on that. It is not. It only comes with switches and keycaps, no bare bones. Now, I haven't swapped out any of the switches or any of the keycaps. I'm just using the board as is, even though you very much could swap out keycaps and switches in the board. It's nice to be able to swap those pieces out, but odds are average consumer is purchasing a keyboard like this to use it as it is out of the box. The stabilizers sound okay. Some of them on my copy sound a little bit better than others, but whatever, that's fine. Again, it is a hot swap board, so if you don't like how the stabilizers sound, it's pretty easy to just take out a few parts, a couple of switches and keycaps, and then properly lube and tune the stabilizers to your liking. The space bar is definitely the loudest of the bunch, and that's usually the case, but I mean, in comparison to the backspace and the enter, it's like, whoa, world of difference. It does have a wireless mode through Bluetooth only, and you can hook it up to 3-ish devices. A number of devices. It's got a 37, what's the number? It's got a 3,750 milliamp hour battery, and it's said to give you around 180 hours of battery life between charges, but of course that's going to be the highest amount of battery life you can get by disabling the RGB. So is the keyboard worth picking up? Well, let's think about who the keyboard is designed for and what Vissles is set out to do with this. It's marketed as an all-in-one mechanical keyboard you can use for gaming and or office work. Would I recommend it for gaming? Yes and no. There are definitely better gaming-oriented keyboards out there, and if you're looking for RGB, you're probably not going to want the keycaps that come with this board. I mean, that's just kind of in my experience back in my days of wanting a gaming keyboard, and what a lot of people look for in gaming keyboards. So while you can definitely play games on it, I don't know if there's necessarily anything that makes it a gaming-focused keyboard, other than maybe the silent switches if you pick up the VS2 switches and you are looking to game at night or something where it's a little bit quieter. And I guess the RGB is also the gamer-oriented thing, because everybody knows RGB gives you at least 20 more frames per second. And as far as office work, I mean, I can definitely see the merits there. I feel like it's a little bit more useful in that regard. It's not too expensive. It's definitely cheaper than something like what Logitech offers with something like their MX Mechanical. I would definitely disable the RGB if you're working in the office, although that could vary by office, but I don't know. The wrist rest, the slimmer profile, the Bluetooth compatibility, I feel like that's all stuff that kind of is geared toward more productivity than it is gaming. So if you're looking at this strictly for gaming, I'd say maybe look elsewhere. You might find some cheaper options or maybe some better, more gaming focused options at this same price range. If you're looking at this for office work, I would say it's definitely something worth looking at. And if you're somebody who's looking to use the board for an all-in-one kind of thing, for a bit of both, I'd say it's a viable option. In my opinion, it definitely seems to be geared more toward the office stuff, but I don't think you're going to have a bad time either if you use it for gaming. Just make sure you plug it in if you're going to play games with it. Don't use the Bluetooth. The 75% layout also makes it compact enough and yet more featured, full of more keys than a 60% board or something like that. So if you did want to use it for both, you can totally put it in like a backpack or a laptop bag or something, take it with you on the go to the office, bring it with you at home to game at home. It's not the greatest keyboard in the world. There's definitely an audience out there for it. I'm not saying don't buy this. I'm just saying weigh your options. And either way, if you pick this up, I don't think you're going to hate it unless you're like a real stickler for the sound of a keyboard like I am. Is that all clear? Does that all make sense? I hope so. Because if so, definitely let me know in the comments and make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And if it does not make sense, if it's not clear, also do those things, because growth is great and I would like some of that sweet YouTube growth. And yeah, that's the review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to watch one of these videos as well. Maybe you'll find something else more to your tastes. Alright, I'm out of here.